Good morning, everyone. This is Full Bloom Friday. And like I said last week, I'm going to be starting every episode from now on, at least, to the best of my ability, with a self check-in. So if you want to join me, feel free to take a moment and just, see where you're at. I'm gonna check in, see where I'm at, and share that. So my body is feeling like super awake this morning, very alert. My body's like gearing to go, and my mind is not quite there. I was up late last night, later than usual, writing a paper, so makes sense. Little sleepy. Um, so that's what's going on with me. That's where I'm at. And I'm really excited about today. We're actually going to be doing 2 episodes of Full Bloom Friday today. So morning episode, regular episode, and then a special tonight, which I'll tell you more about at the end of this episode. So for the morning, and this is a theme for the day, right? But for the morning, I'm going to talk about, and feel free to engage, post-traumatic growth. So, if you're watching this, I'm guessing you've heard of post-traumatic stress, and of course there's post-traumatic stress disorder is a clinical diagnosis, and certainly we're going to talk about trauma, right? A common theme with both. I'm really interested today, though, in sharing even just the idea, because I didn't hear of this idea really, at least not that term, until a week ago. So I'm super excited about it. I love that I went to a graduate program and our sample class was on post-traumatic growth and self-compassion. So, and like I said, I had never heard that term before. So I had heard the idea and I had experienced the idea, but had never heard the term. So I really want to put this out there just as an idea, because I think it's really important, especially for those of us who have experienced traumatic events, to have more of a positive light, right, on the effects that can happen as a result of trauma. So just for clarity's sake, what is post-traumatic growth? It's a positive psychological change as a result of challenges or adversity. So this means that the individual experiences trauma, and then there are observable changes, growth in at least some areas, that is the growth has surpassed where the individual was at prior to the trauma. So in my own life, I can attest to the traumatic events that I have gone through. Things that I have experienced have definitely provoked a lot of self-reflection, a lot of a desire to serve, much more, I feel like, a clearer understanding of people and the world, and all of those things. If I had not experienced the traumatic events that I have, I don't know that any of those things would have happened, at least not certainly to the depth that they have. So I'm very grateful to the challenges, to the adversity that I've experienced. It's something that these are things I attempt to keep in mind when I experience challenges and adversity now, is that I know that based on my past experiences, the challenges that I've experienced before have catalyzed a lot of growth and a lot of insight to myself, to the world, and there's been a lot of fruitful effects from that trauma, as well as stress, right? So also, for clarity's sake, I'm going to offer some definitions or some examples of trauma. First, to clarify, from a clinical perspective, PTSD trauma is defined in this big book. It's called the DSM-5. It's a book with a bunch of list of symptoms that are called diagnoses, right? And so there's, in my opinion, that the definition of trauma in here is pretty limited. It does include things, though, like being in life-threatening situations, like a car accident or a violent crime, a close friend or family member committing suicide, being raped, being repeatedly exposed to traumatic events because of work. So first responders, social workers, and being homeless, right? Those are all either, life-threatening or life-threatening by proxy. Someone near you had their life threatened or ended. And that's the definition of trauma in the DSM. It's pretty inclusive, right? Or it's pretty exclusive. And I, as well as other people I've talked to, including academics, researchers, there's definitely a movement for making the definition of what a traumatic event is more inclusive. So some things that I personally would add to that list are a grandparent or a family pet dying, being repeatedly sexually harassed at work, being bullied, emotional and verbal abuse from parents or caretakers. And we can see that these events, just as the ones that I listed prior, they both have significant effects on our immune systems, on our stress responses. So in my mind, all of those things, right? Anything that causes so much stress that there's a prolonged effect, right? And a lot of those effects that we hear about are things like flashbacks, intrusive thoughts, panic attacks, right? Very difficult, challenging, detrimental in a lot of cases of symptoms. And so back to the idea of post-traumatic growth, though, is that there's this whole other side of trauma that we can really benefit from with first identification, right? Just being able to even accept the possibility that our traumas can catalyze positive changes in us, right? And secondly, by doing, being willing to do a little bit of self-work, right? How are the ways that we've changed since our trauma? In what ways can those in what ways can those changes benefit us or benefit others? So I think a big common denominator that I've experienced in my life and that I've seen other people experience is that people who experience traumatic events seem to, I think, have a deeper level of empathy and understanding and really desire to serve or connect with the rest of humanity, right? There's just a common really just like heartfelt understanding and compassion, I think, that I mean, I'd really say we all experience, because I think it's very rare that someone can get to adulthood without experiencing at least one or two like significant adversities, right? And it's hard to define what a trauma is because each event affects a person so personally, right? So it's difficult for me to say like, well, this event affected me this way and it wasn't traumatic, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't have happened to someone else, and for them it was extremely traumatic, right? So what I'm getting at with this is that there's a lot of fruitful soil, right? That can come out of a traumatic experience, and with that, it's also certainly important to validate where our body is at, where our mind is at, where our emotions are at, because it's not, especially right away, right? It's not sunshine and rainbows. So, first of all, just recognizing that our body's physiological response to trauma is very natural. Like, it makes sense. It makes sense for if our body perceives a threat, for it to freeze up or run away or disassociate. That makes sense. It's our body protecting us, right? And to I think that's a great reason, a great opportunity to like give love to ourselves, right? Like, thank you so much, body, for taking care of me and wanting to protect me. And with that, we can validate what we're going through and also say like, even though this is hard right now, I'm so hopeful because I know that this is, I'm experiencing protection by my body right now, and I'm also hopeful for the lessons to learn from this. So there's a lot to go into about trauma, about post-traumatic growth, and really looks so different, right, for each individual person. And to that, I'm going to be having a special episode of Full Bloom Friday this evening. My dear friend Regan will be coming on to talk about her book that she's written. It's a poetry book about her experiences, her personal experiences with trauma, with her healing process, with her recovery process, and really with the benefits that she's gained, with the growth and the insights that she's gained in herself from those experiences, right? So her book is called Tale of a Phoenix by Regan Quinn, and she'll be on later today. We're going to do a Full Bloom Friday live together, and I hope you all join us for that. So yeah, this has been Full Bloom Fridays, and I hope you all have a great day. I will see you later.